welcome back.
Bienvenidos.
My name's Martha.
And I'm Jessica.
And today we're going to be talking to you about a pretty hard topic, when we're healing and we're surrounded by people that are not.
Yeah, so there comes this time in our healing process and how it's so complicated sometimes.
Yeah.
And the layer of complexity that comes when you're the only one working on getting better.
Right, yeah, because if you're watching this video and you're following us on Instagram or YouTube, then you're probably on your healing journey. Even if you're getting information from this page or similar pages, you're starting to get information, you want to get better, or you want to just improve your life in some way. With that said, maybe a lot of you are in therapy, or maybe you have gone through workshops or have read some books and you've gotten the knowledge and are kind of like coming out of this pattern that you were stuck in. So it's kind of hard to see everybody around you and notice like you're still in the same place, you're not changing, I'm changing, and then what do we do about it?
Yeah, I was gonna say that just the healing process it's hard in general.
Right.
And so now imagine not having a support system, not being surrounded by people that are doing the work as well, or maybe feel that they need the work, and putting that energy towards healing and getting better. It's very difficult in that point, and like my heart goes out to everyone healing without maybe the most supportive environment.
Yeah, and as you're saying that, I'm thinking, what do we see as healing? I guess we would start there. Like, some is really hard, and then some is challenging because it's just pushing you towards other limits that maybe you're not used to.
Yeah.
So healing could be a way of processing different traumas, of recognizing certain patterns that are really harmful currently. And then sometimes it really is just like you're healing yourself to push through really challenging goals. But with all of that, I mean, we're humans, right? We want support, we want people around us, we want like cheerleaders around us too. And when our friends are not able to because they're dealing with their own stuff, or they simply don't have the bandwidth to support us through this healing. They don't care. They don't, not that they don't care, but it comes off that way.
Right.
Family members that are completely oblivious to anything that you're trying to work on. It
others, your partners. I think those people that you want in your life, right? And I think it hits hard because it does impact relationships, right? Like they're this clash of someone trying to get better and working on it and seeing what's healthy, what's not healthy, what's good, what's no longer good, and then being with someone, whether it's like a friendship, a family member, a partner, and maybe they're not seeing the same things, and they're not doing the same things, and this clash starts to happen of now your behaviors are different, now your values are changing, the way you see the world, the way you see your problem, the way you see life, it starts maybe changing and becoming maybe too different.
It's changing the interaction.
Maybe even breaking boundaries at some point, right? Like what this person thinks is okay, I no longer think it's okay. And what do you do with that?
And I think that with those relationships that you just mentioned, there's a certain set of expectations because those examples are relationships that we're close to. I'm thinking like other groups would be coworkers or schoolmates and stuff, but it doesn't have that same expectation, right?
Or the same weight.
You're just kind of like, I don't expect you to improve and make my life better or complement it. I already know you're a coworker, I already know you're a classmate, it's not a big deal. But with your family or your significant other, there is. You're like, I want to live this life with you.
Yeah, so I think this video is really aimed for the people that are healing and are starting to see that clash, or maybe don't have the support from people that they really love. You know, that people that it's a really hard decision to maybe cut them off, or it's really devastating to see them not get better or not work on it when you are trying to get better and work on it. So I think some examples would be, let's say a daughter or a son trying to work on it. You know, maybe they lived in a toxic home and they're the only one seeing that it's toxic, and they're going to therapy, or they're doing the, you know, self-help books, or they're working on it, and still living in a household that maybe is not the healthiest. That's one example. What could be another one?
I think that with relationships, when we are doing a lot of our own work, we start learning communication patterns that work for us, that are better, that are more beneficial. So when we start noticing in our partners that they're not communicating in the same way that these books told us, or that our therapist said we should expect, it becomes really frustrating, and it becomes exhausting to kind of have to push against them without them having the knowledge. I've had plenty of clients that are like, well, I read all of this stuff, I see all of this new information, but my spouse doesn't. So how do I communicate that with them? How do I expect them to be a better parent when they're not reading the same stuff? But it brings up a lot of negative feelings towards that other person in the relationship. You have so many expectations of, this is all the knowledge that I have. I want to like transfer that onto you. And I'm also expecting you to receive it and process it in the same way that I did, which is pretty near impossible because we're different people. Yeah. So checking our expectations with that.
Right. I think of other examples. It could be even between siblings, right? Or, you know, one of your parents. It could also be between a best friend, or, you know, someone that you really want in your life. Maybe a childhood friend. You've been friends for 20 years and you thought, yeah, that's gonna be my partner for life, right? My road dog. And it's changing a lot, and so now maybe you're feeling, well, I have to be friends with them still because it's been so long. But then you're starting seeing, oh, well, I'm not having as much fun hanging out with this person anymore, or maybe you're feeling really disrespected, or maybe the energy is off, or maybe there's
just too negative,
maybe there's some tension going on. So, you know, that's kind of what we want to aim for today. So another point is, well, you know, if you're in this situation, how does it affect people?
One of the things that I notice when somebody is going through the healing process is that they do have a lot of information. They gather a lot of information. They're processing things differently. You see interactions through a whole new lens. So you can identify certain bad behaviors or certain things that you've already worked on, you've already gone past, and now you're like, I recognize that bad behavior, that's not good. I recognize what you're doing, I don't like that. You know, just, it's kind of it's a filter of what you've already experienced, what you've already been through, what you've gotten better at. But it's very one-sided, right? Because you're the only one doing it. It's not like you can have that conversation with your partner and say, like, when we did couples therapy, we learned this tool of recognizing this pattern of behavior. So then you can talk about the same thing, have the same language. But if you're not in therapy together,
it's almost like a different perspective too, right? Because it's like I envision like the perspective, like what you're describing, the person's out of it,
right?
You know, and so they're have the outsider perspective now, and so they're trying to talk to someone that's in it still, and so their perspective is from someone inside of it, and so that's going to be totally different. It's two different languages almost.
Yeah. It's like almost like peeling an onion, right? It's like, have you gone through that layer? And how do you actually, how do you walk through with somebody when they're not peeling as well?
Yeah, and what to do about that, because there could be many different reasons. It could be they're just not ready.
Right.
It could just be...
And what do you mean by not ready?
Yeah, I think some people are just not ready yet to process what's going on. And so whether it be trauma, whether it be bad patterns or behaviors, or just being in something not so great, I do think that that's why it's so important to meet people where they're at, because unfortunately not everyone, you know, is ready to see it just yet. I think that's why when you bring something up to a person of like, hey, like I thought that was pretty disrespectful, or hey, you know, I think I see this is going on and I'm just not sure what's happening, but I don't like it. There could be like this defensiveness almost, or this dismissal, or this, let me just ignore it, or what are you talking about?
Right.
I kind of don't know what you're talking about, or like whatever, or almost like, you know, oh, well, look at Miss, you know, goody two shoes getting the work down. Now she's pointing it out for everyone else.
Yeah, you get criticized for it.
And so I think that's what I mean by that. And, you know, it could also be someone choosing not to.
Right.
You know, it doesn't fit with what they want to do. It doesn't want to fit with, you know, where their life is going. You know, but also I think I'm also thinking of the people that maybe do want to, but their journey is just not coming fast enough for a person. And so that could be another situation you might be in, of your loved one really wants to, but maybe they're taking too long, and what do you do with that?
Yeah, I could see that. So like there's the one that has no recognition, no acknowledgement that they're even having these harmful patterns.
Yeah.
There's the one that maybe recognizes it, but is like, it's not my thing.
Right.
I'm just gonna choose to be like this because it's too hard to change anyway, so I'm gonna keep going. And then there are the ones that you just said want to change, but their process is a little bit slower for whatever reasons, right? There's plethora of reasons. I think right now what happens when you're advanced in this journey, you start judging. I think a lot of people start judging because they can identify it so quickly. They can label it, right? So then you're just like frustrated. Why aren't you changing? Why are you still this way? What else shows up that is of caution? Like
caution?
Yes.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot to be cautious if you find yourself in a situation, and to go along with what you're saying is to, I think, be cautious of not trying to be the savior or saving your loved ones. And it's so hard, right? Because you want the best for the people that you love, for your, whether it's your family member, you know, your partner, significant other, a best friend, a sibling, you know, whoever that is. You want them healthy, and you want them to live a happy life, and you truly want the best for them. But, you know, we kind of see this a lot of people try to save that person, right? And so they kind of make that person's journey their own. Right? And, you know,
it becomes too personal.
It becomes too personal. And that could be dangerous, because then you're stopping your own journey. Like that energy could go to your own journey of trying to heal, but that almost gets like interrupted or stopped.
Right.
Because then now you're focusing, well, let me save them. Let me bring them to where I'm at. Let me help them. Let me do everything. Let me put the silver platter to them. Let me take care of them. Let me provide for them. You know, let me teach them.
Let me show them the way.
Let me show them the way. And so that could be harmful, right? Because there is a thing of doing too much of that, right? And then, you know, when it doesn't work, you know, how disappointing that is. And then the resentment that gets built of, you know, it not working.
As you were saying that, what stood out for me so clearly is our identity as a first gen.
Yeah.
You're like, pull them with us, bring them with us.
Put them on our backs.
Just show them the way. And it's like, oh my gosh, that is what we do all the time. If I've reached greener pastures, then I'm going to bring the whole familia with me, right? I'm going to bring all the sisters and brothers with me, because this is so much better. But it goes back to everyone is their own person. Everyone is their own journey. And don't get distracted. And I think that that's a huge message from us to our first gens in all areas.
Right.
You know, show them the way, but don't force them.
Yeah, yes, you could, you know, talk to them about it, you know, want the best for them, even help them out. But I think just understanding of having a healthy limit with that, because, you know, at some point it does become enabling a little bit. You know, you might accidentally be enabling bad patterns that you're trying to break.
It's enabling, and I also think it's really harmful for your for yourself.
Yeah.
Like when you're so frustrated all the time, that's just really harming you. Your physical sense of self, your mental sense of self, like everything is being affected when you're that angry and frustrated with somebody. There's also this like disbelief that they're never going to change, but in reality it's just in their own terms, you know.
So I think it's also important to kind of talk about like how this affects people, and you know what could be some effects of that. And so what you just said was one of them. I think it could also be very lonely.
Right. Yeah.
Very isolating. It sucks when you are trying to put in the work and then the people around you are not.
Right. Yeah. You're trying to climb that mountain by yourself, right? So who do you talk to about that process?
Yeah.
And with that, I mean, you can always find community outside of it, but going back to like, these are the important relationships that you so badly want to heal with.
Yeah.
It is really lonely. It's really frustrating, and it comes to a point where I would suggest you kind of accept it. There's a process of grief, right? There's you just kind of understand that you're going to have to let it go.
Yeah. I think the grieving process is huge. You know, it's not black and white. I think it's, you know, it's a process, you know.
Right, you're not going to choose like, okay, I'm going to grieve now because I realize.
But I think even going through it, right? Like I think even realizing like, oh shit, like there's distance between us now. Like my loved one is not healthy for me. Or man, I truly love this person, but they're not helping themselves and I'm becoming affected, right? Like I think that's like the start of it,
right?
Of like what do I do? Does this mean distance? Does this mean cutting them off? Does this mean setting boundaries? Like what exactly does this mean? And the sadness of it, of being super sad that you're not seeing your person choose better,
especially if it's your parents.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know, like how do you even wrap your head around like, okay, I'm going to cut off my parents when they're the ones that are not healing? That would be a really hard one.
Which is not an easy decision. And, you know, even when it's the best decision, it still hurts.
Right.
You know, you still feel the loss or the, I wish I had, you know, a parent that I could have in my life, or I wish, you know, my parent was motherly. I wish that
you start seeing everybody else like, you know,
yeah.
I think that we could be in denial with a lot of these things, and that's kind of what pulls us to continue to try, and it's like the definition of insanity, right?
Yes, you do feel insane, right? And so I think this is another thing to kind of look out for. You could, you know, be really gaslighted in the process. You could feel insane. You could be like, am I the one saying something wrong?
Right. It's like, am I taking crazy pills? What's going on here? But maybe you're not. I mean, you know, unless you are, but maybe you're not. You're probably not.
Most likely you're not.
Right. So then you just kind of have to start realizing like, okay, this is the time where I need to take the next step. What is my choice?
So if this is you, if you totally relate to what we're talking about here, we're about to talk about what to do in this case. So I think to start, really, you know, like Martha was saying, like identify with yourself, like what is important to you, what do you want in your life, what kind of relationships do you want in your life, what kind of support system do you have in your life, and seeing and knowing what that looks like, and what, you know, could be done about it.
Right. I think the other side to that is what's realistic for that person, for the other person in the relationship.
Yeah.
So these are my needs, right? You as the person healing, this is what I need. This is what I want. This is the relationship that I envision for mother-daughter relationship, partner, friends, whatever it is. And then hopefully, we hope that you do have some of those examples in really good, healthy friendships that you can kind of emulate and have a template for. But then be honest with yourself in that relationship. Is that person capable of giving me those needs? Knowing that there's not much you can do about it, not much that you can change. You can kind of show somebody to water, but you can't make them drink, you know, that kind of thing. So have very realistic evaluation of who you're dealing with.
Yeah. And, you know, being honest with yourself too, because, you know, I'm a fan of that, you know, analogy of we can take someone to the water, but we can't make them drink it, right? And I think really understanding that, like, you cannot make anyone do anything.
Right, that's like the number one rule in therapy.
Yeah.
You can't change others.
You can't change others. You cannot make them do anything. It is up to that person, right?
Yeah.
And I think just having that in mind, and then moving along with that in mind, right? Because then it's, do you need to make that tough decision, right? And knowing what your options are. Is it time for distance? Is it time for stricter boundaries? Is it time for space? Is it time to just not have this person in your life anymore? And, you know, I know that's the last option for many, you know, but it is something maybe we can't ignore as a possibility.
Right. And I think it's a different option for every type of relationship, and it's a different option for you as a listener. But some of the examples that I think of is like, you're not cutting off completely right away, right? You said like the toughest one is cutting off for a breakup. That's probably like the last straw when you realize this is not going anywhere and there's nothing I can do. But there's other ways that are less harmful, less traumatic for both of you. It's like redefining this relationship, limiting your contact, even limiting the conversation, the topics. As soon as it reaches a point of discomfort where you feel judged, attacked, whatever, that's a very quick cue to be like, Actually, I just saw something. I'm going to call you back.
Yeah.
Very quick. It doesn't have to be completely all or nothing. Knowing how your body responds to certain things is really important. So being aware of who you are, who you're around, how it's affecting you, and knowing those very small limits, starting from just, I'm going to call you once a week, or I'm going to change the subject every time, or I'm going to hang up every time in the most polite way, or very small steps like that.
Right. And I think I would add, and it made me think about not only boundaries with others, but boundaries with ourselves too, because I think that's so important. Of, maybe I'm not gonna lend this money anymore because they haven't paid me back, right? Maybe I'm gonna learn how to say no because I can't do that, or maybe I need to learn how many favors to do for this person. Maybe,
which to that, because we're talking about like me healing versus them healing, right? You're healing, so you know that you don't want to let people borrow that money or do those favors. But how it shows up in the frustration that we're asking you to kind of be aware of is like, why do they keep doing this?
Yes.
Why do they keep asking? Why can't they just change? Why can't they be better? Why can't they get a job? Why can't they? And it's, as soon as you say, why can't they? As soon as you point the finger to them, that's your cue of, do the boundaries for yourself.
Yes,
right?
Yes. There's this book about boundaries that I really love, and one of the points that they say is that the boundaries that get the most disrespected are the ones we set for ourselves. And I always think about that because it's very true, right? Because it starts with us, and so we have to be mindful of our boundaries, right? Of, I felt really disrespected for right now with this person. What can I do about that, right? Like, what do I need to do in response to kind of feeling disrespected? Maybe I won't do the favor next time. Maybe I won't break my back for this person. And so just really being mindful of your own boundaries with yourself and how you relate to the people that maybe are not doing the work.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good reframing of putting it on yourself, right? Was there anything else that you wanted to kind of throw in with this?
I don't think so. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, my heart goes out to anyone going through something like this. It's very tough. It's very lonely. Certainly a very hard situation to be in. But I hope this video has helped you kind of reframe some things, or kind of have an understanding, or just kind of feeling like you're not alone in this, that other people may experience this as well. And I think as the message really continues on with our topics and our population of first gens, like, be the model. And that's all you can really offer, especially in this situation. Just model what it's like to be a healed, better person. You never know who's going to be watching and actually paying attention. One of the very hard things about healing is the very hard decisions you have to make in the process. And that's why it's so hard to do, and not everyone does it. And so try thinking of that. It does require hard decisions, and at the end of the day, you are looking out for you, your happiness, your mental health, and your sanity. There's others out there that are going to appreciate it and actually be there with you, so there's always hope. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Make sure you subscribe and follow us on Instagram as well for quicker and more inspirational videos and posts throughout the week. See you next week.